Namaskar. Dear students, we will move to the lecture 27, Theories of IR under the International Political Economy School, the classical theories. And we have done the first theory in the last lecture, that is mercantilism. And in this lecture, we will be doing theory number 2, economic liberalism. The very foundations of one of the most successful theories of the international political economy, that is economic liberalism. Let's see how it started, what are its roots, and how it moved, and what is its trajectory or evolution in international relations theory. Economic liberalism. It emerged as a critique of the comprehensive political control and regulation of the economic affairs, that is mercantilism. They reject theories and policies that subordinate economics to politics. They hold that the creation of the modern world is a consequence of factors internal to the market. And the founder of this school is, as most of you know, Adam Smith. Adam Smith, 1723 to 1790, the father of economic liberalism, that believed that markets tend to expand spontaneously for the satisfaction of human needs, provided that governments do not interfere unduly. So they are against government interference into the economy. And this is Adam Smith for you. And Adam Smith was an economist and philosopher who wrote what is considered the Bible of capitalism, The Wealth of Nations, in which he details the fiscal system of the political economy. He was an 18th century Scottish economist, philosopher and author, and is considered the father of modern economics. And as I already told you, his path-breaking book, or what is known as the Bible of Capitalism, is The Wealth of Nations. Now, what are the core ideas of Adam Smith? Please remember, Adam Smith and John Locke are more or less contemporaries. So please understand, the rise of the modern liberal state has a lot to do with the rise of economic liberalism. If you are very careful students of international relations, you will understand that both these movements grew simultaneously. The rational actor, a belief in progress and an assumption of mutual gain from free exchange. The key notion that the economic marketplace is the main source of progress, cooperation, and prosperity. Political interference and state regulation, by contrast, are uneconomical, retrogressive, and can lead to conflict. Liberal economics. A doctrine and a set of principles for organizing and managing economic growth and individual welfare. It is based on the notion that if left to itself, the market economy will operate spontaneously according to its mechanisms or laws. These laws are considered to be inherent in the process of economic production and exchange. Second, David Ricardo, 1772 to 1823, was a classical economist best known for his theory on wages and profit, labor theory of value, theory of comparative advantage, and theory of rents. David Ricardo and several other economists also simultaneously and independently discovered the law of diminishing marginal returns. Now, David Ricardo. Free trade, that is commercial activities, that are carried on independently of national borders will bring benefits to all participants because free trade makes specialization possible. And specialization increases efficiency and thus productivity. Whether or not one of two regions is absolutely more efficient in the production of every good other than the other, if each specializes in the product in what it has comparative advantage, greatest relative efficiency, trade will be mutually profitable. What is he trying to say? He says if there's a country A and country B, and let's say country A produces certain goods and is very good at producing it, for example, let's say garments. Then allow it to produce garments and you buy it from them. You also specialize in a particular area, say for example, electronic goods. So while you import from them, they will import electronic goods from you. So what he says is, this is what he calls a law of comparative advantage. Economic liberals, the central actor is the individual as a consumer and producer. The marketplace is the open arena where individuals come together to exchange goods and services. So they're making it clear. They see the individual as the consumer. That's why they say the consumer is king. The marketplace is where the open arena, right? Individuals are rational in pursuing their own economic interests. And when they apply that rationality in the marketplace, all participants gain. Economic exchange via the market is thus a positive sum game. Everybody gains more than they put in because of increased efficiency. So they bring in with it what we call today the rational choice theory. Individuals are rational and self-seeking, want to make themselves better off. The road to human prosperity grows through the unfettered expansion of the free market economy, capitalism. Not only in each country, but also across international borders. Early economic liberals called for laissez-faire, for the freedom of the market from all kinds of political restriction and regulation. Now, what is classical laissez-faire? Even the early economic liberals were aware of the need for a politically constructed legal framework as a basis for the market. It does not mean the absence of any political regulation whatsoever. It means that the state only sets up those minimal underpinnings that are necessary for the market to function properly. Now, conservatism, neoliberal economic policies of Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan were both influenced by this school. John Stuart Mill. Markets may not work according to expectations of efficiency and mutual gain. Such cases are usually called instances of market failure. Political regulation may be necessary to correct or avoid market failure. So he looks upon the state having some limited influence. Laissez-faire economic liberal, but he was critical of the extreme inequalities of income, wealth and power that he observed in the 19th century Britain. That made him call for limited state action in some areas, including education and relief for the poor. John Maynard Keynes, 1883 to 1946. One person who should have got the Nobel but did not get. Keynesian economics was developed by the British economist John Maynard Keynes during the 1930s in an attempt to understand the Great Depression. Keynes advocated for increased government expenditures and lower taxes to stimulate demand and pull the global economy out of depression. So if you see in the US and others, many try to follow what he had suggested. Keynesian economics, what does it? The market economy is a great benefit to people, but it also entails potential evils of risk, uncertainty, and ignorance. That situation could be remedied to improve political management of the market. He argued in favor of a market which was wisely managed by the state. The positive view of the state amounted to a major shift in the liberal economic doctrine. So he makes that paradigm shift of transforming the state, which helps political, economic liberalism. His ideas paved the way for a significantly reformed liberal theory, one which was still based on a market economy, but with a considerable degree of state interference and direction, which most of you should understand that the New Deal under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, great, popular in Europe after World War II until 1980s. One major reason for this renewed liberal faith in the unfettered market is the belief that economic globalization will bring prosperity to all. Summary. Economic liberals argue that the market economy is an autonomous sphere of society, which operates according to its own economic laws. Over time, the modern part of the economy tends to crowd out the more backward sectors, which increases efficiency and hence wealth. Economic exchange is a positive sum game, and the market will tend to maximize benefits for the rational, self-seeking individuals, the households and the companies that participate in the market exchange. The economy is a sphere for mutual benefit among states as well as among individuals. The international economy should thus be based on free trade. Role of the state, classical, leave markets alone as well as international and national. Some favor increased state involvement in the marketplace. So liberalism summarized. Relationship between economics and politics, economics autonomous. Main actor and unit of analysis, individuals and private firms. The nature of economic relations, cooperative, a positive sum game. Economic goals, maximum individual and social well-being. Now to the last school in the classical theory of international political economy is Marxism. All of you know Karl Marx, Karl Heinrich Marx, 1818 to 1883, was a German philosopher, economist, historian, sociologist, political theorist, journalist, and social revolutionary. Born in Germany, Marx studied law and philosophy at a university. He married Jenny in 1843. And then his colleague and co-traveler, Friedrich Engels, 1820 to 1895, was a German philosopher, historian, communist, social scientist, sociologist, journalist, political activist, and businessman. Friedrich Engels was a German philosopher, social scientist, and a businessman who lived from 1820 to 1895. His collection of work done with Karl Marx laid the groundwork for modern communism. Another person whom I think is greatly neglected in the study of early Marxism is Rosa Luxemburg. I don't know whether it's because of gender or the patriarchy, but it is important. The person who in Pune, University of Pune, when it came, who first mentioned it was Professor Rajendra Bora. I was so pleasantly surprised that he insisted in political theory to have a lecture on Rosa Luxemburg. I want to follow that tradition while paying my respects to him. 1871 to 1990, was a Polish Marxist, philosopher, economist, anti-war activist, and revolutionary socialist, who became a naturalized German citizen at the age of 28. During the November Revolution, she co-founded the newspaper, The Red Flag, the central organ of the Spartacist movement. Luxembourg considered the Spartacist uprising of January 1919 a blunder, but supported the attempted overthrow of the government and rejected any attempt at a negotiated solution. Now, Marx and Engels. As previously stated, the Communist Manifesto explains the hallmarks of communism. In it, Engels and Marx shared the belief that the basis of history and social conflict is the struggle between classes. The wealthier class, known as the bourgeoisie, and those who own the means of production. In 1848, Marx and fellow thinker Friedrich Engels published the Communist Manifesto, which introduced their concept of socialism as a natural result of the conflicts inherent in the capitalist system. Marx later moved to London, where he would live for the rest of his life. So if you see very clearly, we have to understand today, when we are starting the Marxist school, I'm taking you through a journey of surveying all the great thinkers the school has been influenced by. Next, Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, from 1870 to 1924, better known by his aliases Lenin, was a Russian revolutionary, politician and political theorist. He served as head of government of Soviet Russia from 1917 to 1924 and of the Soviet Union from 1922 to 24. In recognizing and accepting nationalism among oppressed peoples, Lenin advocated their natural right to self-determination, and so opposed Russian chauvinism because such ethnocentrism was a cultural obstacle to establishing the dictatorship of the proletariat in every territory of the deposed Russian Empire. Leon Trotsky. Lev Davidovich Bronstein, 7th November 1879 to 1940, better known as Leon Trotsky, was a Russian revolutionary, political theorist and politician. Do most of you know that there's only one party in the world, Communist Party in the world, leftist party in the world, named after Leon Trotsky? Which is the country? Very close to us, Sri Lanka. They have what was called the Trotskyist party. Ideologically a communist, he developed a variant of Marxism known as Trotskyism. Trotsky self-identified as an orthodox Marxist and Bolshevik Leninist. He supported founding a vanguard party of the proletariat, proletarian internationalism and the dictatorship of the proletariat, basing on working class self-emancipation and mass democracy. And as most of you know, unfortunately, in the power struggle with Joseph Stalin, he had to leave the Soviet Union. And many people say that the Russian intelligence agencies killed him in Mexico in 1940, where he was killed by a hammer or somebody who came dressed like a postman. And many people believe this was committed by the KGB. That's why it is said that the CIA may be notorious, but the KGB is more dangerous. Now, Joseph Stalin, a very controversial, but there are many people who love him as much as those who hate him. Joseph Stalin was born in 1878 and died in 1953, was a Georgian revolutionary, an Asian and Soviet politician who ruled the Soviet Union from the mid-1920s until his death in 1953. He served as a General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union from 1922 to 1952 and the Premier of the Soviet Union from 1941 to 1953. Despite initially governing the Soviet Union as part of a collective leadership, he eventually consolidated power to become the country's de facto ruler, many call him a dictator, by the 1930s. Mao Zedong, a person who greatly admired Joseph Stalin, December 26, 1893 to September 9, 1976. Mao Zedong, also known as Chairman Mao, was a Chinese communist revolutionary who became the founding father of the People's Republic of China, which he ruled as the chairman of the Communist Party of China from its establishment in 1949 until his death in 1976. Maoism or Mao Zedong thought is a variety of Marxism-Leninism that Mao Zedong developed for realizing a socialist revolution in the agricultural pre-industrial society of the Republic of China and later the People's Republic of China. Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh led a long and ultimately successful campaign to make Vietnam independent. He was the president of Vietnam from 1945 to 1969, and he was one of the most influential communist leaders of the 20th century. It is his Vietnam which defeated the United States, and later it was Vietnam also that defeated the PLA, People's Liberation Army of China. So being a very small country, they proved that they can defeat major powers. Now, Latin American Marxists-Leninists. They are important because this variety is extremely important in what we know as the development school of international political economy, which will do it in the modern schools. So for them, you all should have an idea of the two major revolutionaries from there. That is Ernesto Che Guevara, 14th June 1928 to 9th October 1967. Was an Argentine Marxist revolutionary, physician, author, guerrilla leader, diplomat, and military theorist. I had gone to Argentina. He is not, people silently admire him, but there is no public acceptance of it. And many people say this is because of the American dislike to him and his revolutionary activities. But it's very surprising that very few there is any public memorial for him and others. When we as tourists go there, everything is not so open. A major figure of the Cuban Revolution, his stylized visage has become ubiquitous as a countercultural symbol of rebellion and the global insignia in popular culture. Che Guevara is the purest part of the Cuban Revolution. He is the symbol of the ideal of the revolution. He is the symbol of innovation. He is the symbol of hope. He had Irish roots, traveled around Mexico and learned to be alone. He challenged solitude. Guevaraism is the theory of communist revolution and the military strategy of guerrilla warfare, something which Shivaji Maharaj made very famous, Chhatrapati Shivaji. Associated with communist revolutionary Ernesto Che Guevara, a leading figure of the Cuban Revolution who believed in the idea of Marxist-Leninism and embraced its principle. Very charismatic, a symbol for most youth of counterculture. Fidel Castro Ruz, most of you know him, August 1926 to 25th November 2016. Fidel Castro Ruz was a Cuban revolutionary and a politician who served as Prime Minister of Cuba from 1959 to 1976 and President of Cuba from 1976 to 2008. Ideologically a Marxist-Leninist and Cuban nationalist, he also served as the first secretary of the Communist Party of Cuba from 1961 to 2011. As a Marxist-Leninist, Castro believed strongly in converting Cuba and the wider world from a capitalist system in which individuals own the means of production into a socialist system in which the means of production are owned by the workers. So the Latin American school is extraordinarily important, and the reason being that we will be doing the Latin American School of Dependency and Underdevelopment, which is a very major school in the modern political economy theories. Marx himself provided little in terms of a theoretical analysis of international relations. Various schools have emerged that claim Marx as a direct inspiration or whose work is linked to Marx. So for us, Marxism in the classical school, we mention, but it is basically in the, modern schools of international political economy and other schools of international relations theories that they play a very major role. As in the last slide, I've told you, though directly Karl Marx did not write much, but then he has inspired generations and generations of thinkers in international relations who hold him up as an inspiration or whose many theories use ideas as given by him and the later disciples, whom we refer to. Thank you so much. Meet you again.